Hello, I am Jason Tamborini, Artistic Director of Prologue Theatre, and I am joined today by Eoin Carney, playwright of the Brehon or Brehon. We're going to get into that in a second. The first play in our Forward New Work series workshops that will be presented in the months of April and May. So welcome, Eoin. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, it's great to be here.
So I guess the first question on this list is the pronunciation of the title.
Okay.
Which I didn't actually ask you about. So
Brehon, not Brehon. No,
Brehon.
no.
Okay.
Yeah, the Brehon. Yeah.
Awesome. So that's, I promise I won't go into further into that. So I guess let's start off by tell us a little bit about yourself. Other things you're working on currently, and other things that you're doing, recently or today.
Okay. Well, I'm from Ireland, originally. Eoin is always tripping people up because it's a lot of vowels together. It's not technically my name. My name's Jonathan, but Eoin is the Irish version of that.
Oh.
And in Irish class back in Ireland, you would have to use your Irish form of your name, and I like it as a nickname. It's better than other shortened versions of Jonathan. So yeah, I've been in the States a long time. I came here for grad school and had a career as a research scientist. So my background is physics, medical imaging. And I write plays, obviously. And the other thing I do is I have a satirical blog, Breaking Berg, that's politics and Pittsburgh stuff.
Cool.
It's had a few Snoops articles, so we've had a few big stories.
There you go. Very cool.
Yeah, and right now I am at the Popular Culture Association conference in San Antonio. So I kind of sought this out because I went back to my local community college to do some technical theater courses because I was getting more interested in producing work.
Mm-hmm.
And they had a certificate program, so I was like, I'll do that. It's something to throw in the resume. They made me do intro to theater stuff as part of it. write a paper on Shakespeare. So I was like, well, I'm going to present this paper somewhere. So I found this organization. So that's where I am today, and in lovely San Antonio.
Have you already presented your paper or no?
I did one yesterday, and then I got one later today.
Excellent.
It's going to be kind of fun because it's I kind of got fascinated with Insta poetry, if you know what that is.
I don't know.
Well, it's this whole movement of writing poems on Instagram.
Okay.
And it's kind of looked down on a bit by some established poets, because a lot of them, Rupi Kaur is one. It's had a lot of commercial success. If you go into Barnes and Noble, you'll find all these books. And so I sort of started out with a mocking chapbook of Insta poems. But then I became kind of fascinated, and it became a bit more meaningful as I sort of got stuck in. So I'm presenting my experience of writing all these Insta poems.
Very cool.
Transitioning from a critic to a sort of devotee. So I'll be facing some angry poets today.
There could be worse things, I suppose.
Yeah, this is the easy gig.
Very cool. Very cool. So I wanted to ask, do you have a particular writing, routine, or a particular writing philosophy that you kind of adhere to?
No, I don't. And I think that my technique is poor. And by technique, that's really a code word for discipline. I'm always impressed with these writers who get up at 6 a.m. and I kind of fear I hobble myself a bit by not having that. I do lots of other things. So
yeah.
I'm kind of prioritizing a bit more now. And certainly finding you guys was part of a sort of focused effort to start seeking out opportunities, and finishing this draft of the Brehon was quite an effort because it's fairly long. It's
No, I understand that. I would also say though that, everybody, but writers in particular, we're talking about that, brings their own experiences into not only what they're writing, but how they write it. So
Hmm.
if you only ever knew the idea of, I have this strict regimen and schedule, and I get up at this time and I force myself to write for this many hours, that's all you really know. Whereas,
Yes.
what you're describing is coming at writing, playwriting in particular, but writing in general and poetry, from a different, from a different starting point, and
Hmm.
from a different angle. So I think that in and of itself kind of almost becomes a, not a philosophy, so to speak, but
Yeah.
a methodology of how
Hmm.
you get to writing. I think it's super cool that you come from a research science, background. I think that that probably plays into your, not only your writing style, but also your method, how, your daily non-routine, so to
Hmm.
speak.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Whatever works.
What,
That's a good
and you know
philosophy.
what? That's a thing. Whatever works. I do some. I joke. I sometimes joke that I'm like, well, do I have a plan? Sure, but I also just kind of fly by the seat of my pants. Um,
Hmm.
and it's a lot of the times when I'm working on things, it really is. I'm constantly evolving and adapting to what's happening. So that sounds, it seems like it's slightly, in some ways, similar to your kind of process.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
so let's talk a little bit about your play, about the Brehon. Can you talk about what was the inspiration for the play?
I can, and that's easy one because it was actually very specific. I remember the moment when I thought I was going to write a play. Um, I was in Dublin visiting family, and I was seeing a play at the Peacock, which is the second stage to the Abbey Theatre, right?
Mhm.
So Ireland's most famous theatre. Um, and I resolved to write a play right then as I watched the play I was seeing, on that stage. Um, and that was a very specific play. This isn't sort of really directly related to it, but it was a play about um, two Irishmen, and one was William Joyce, who was Lord Haw Haw, who was the German propagandist during World War II. I
Okay.
think the equivalent of Tokyo Rose here,
Hmm. Okay.
someone broadcasting in the language of the enemy. So he was a traitor. I think he was hanged. Um, and the other Irishman, and I forget his name, but he was from County Tipperary. He became the inspiration for Big Brother in George Orwell's 1984. He was
Okay.
Churchill's kind of. So I was just watching this play about these two figures, and it was a very good play. And I just thought I got to write a play, and I have my two prompts: Ireland and power. That's all.
Okay.
That's all I really took from it. It wasn't anything more than that. And then I just had this image of a man and his son working. I didn't have a time or anything, just a sort of almost silhouette style, sort of, which is probably inspired by the set design I was seeing at that moment. And
Mm.
that's the opening scene. And then once I stumbled upon, I was always interested in Brehon law and the idea that there was this extinguished sort of completely different way of doing things.
Yeah.
Because all the law we have now, at least in this part of the world, including here, is based on English common law,
Mm.
Magna Carta, all this.
Yeah.
But there was another system, uh, and so then it kind of kind of all fell into place.
Very cool. Very cool. Yeah, the way you describe, seeing the father and the son as kind of that like inciting image, it's very Pinteresque. Like Harold Pinter talks about how most of his plays started out as him just seeing a specific image or a specific item
Hmm.
or object or moment, and he had no idea. Like he talked at some of those points he had no idea what was happening or where it was leading to, but he had to write it. And then
Hmm.
that's like the seed of most of his plays. Um, I think it's I think it can become a very powerful thing for any writer to have such a strong image and then kind of play with it, see where it goes. I think that works for anybody. Um, so I know that you've done there's there are mounds of research that's been done, and you looked into all of these things, especially where you've described this as a historical play that is not a historical play kind of idea. Um, what from where you kind of first conceived this idea, what if anything has changed about the play or about your thoughts about the play since then?
Um, well, if I'm trying to think when that first show was. I think I looked it up a while ago. The one where I got the first idea, inkling.
Mm.
I'm guessing that was around about 2016 or 2017. It was probably during the election, the Trump
Mm-hmm.
rise. So I was probably thinking a lot about that, just because that's what was happening. And I kind of have a bit of an obsession with Trump. I've got another Trump play that's actually about Trump.
Mm.
But I think he stands for a lot. He illuminates a lot. He's not, in and of himself, he's just, a bit of a buffoon in some ways. But he also he shines a light on everything else.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously there was a thing about power and, people not standing up to him or thinking everything will just never get too out of control.
Okay.
So that's kind of where I was a little bit. But I sort of always had this idea that this is a bit bigger. This is uh, a sort of struggle, or the lack of a struggle, that's happened over time. And so what really changed was, well, the Ukraine invasion. That
Mm.
was like almost uncanny. Just over a year ago, everyone was like, Putin had all the forces in the border. Um, and like no one could imagine, there can't be a full-scale war between these two countries.
Mm.
And right up until the last minute, even when they were broadcasting those weird sort of meetings of Putin with his distance from all his subordinates, no one actually believed it were going to happen, including Zelensky.
Mm-hmm.
And now, of course, we're at a point where there's an awful lot of killing going on, and a massive war. That would have been unimaginable the night before it happened. And everyone would have said, and everyone was saying, except for the US intelligence services, actually, that, this is all a bluff. Yeah, he did that, but he won't do this.
Mm.
And so it kind of knocked me over that's the play.
Yeah.
Right. And I mentioned before, one of the key lines is when the wife says, plenty of things don't happen until they do.
Yeah.
And that was Ukraine. So
Mm-hmm.
it's just kind of, it's become more real in a really kind of horrifying way.
Yeah. And it gives it a weight.
Right. Yeah, that didn't discourage me from the point of, obviously these things are terrible and I don't want them to happen. But it certainly didn't, detract from the relevance of pursuing this play.
Mm-hmm.
It made my previous where I was previously with it seem rather trite, because
That's
this
interesting.
is so much weightier.
Yeah.
And the Tom character, who is obviously charismatic, embodies all of this.
Mm-hmm.
You think about Putin, not to harp on it, but it is the thing that's happening right now. Putin isn't someone you'd call charismatic, but he's certainly someone we were all a bit charmed by in previous years, with his horse riding and his antics, and the way he seemed to outlast and dance around everyone else. Everyone gave him some due.
Mm-hmm.
And so Tom is kind of all of those rolled into one, but even more charismatic.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that's
Okay. Excellent.
I don't know if my thinking's changed. It was more like a sort of bit blown away by it's like sort of ignorantly stumbled onto something that was actually more relevant than I knew.
Mm-hmm. And I do think I find that that happens a lot with theater, where the the poignancy or the relevancy of a piece is very sometimes very cyclical, where
Mhm.
it was very poignant at this moment in time and it still made sense, it still reverberated through time, and then something else happened and you went, oh man, wait,
Yeah.
what's the it's got a bit of an Arthur Miller-esque kind of vibe to it, where it's, you know, it's a play about this but it's really about this from this other time, like that, and they're
Mhm.
all very similar. um the idea of history repeating itself without actually repeating itself is ever present.
Yeah.
Really. um cool. So as we head into this workshop, I want to ask you, so as the playwright, as a playwright, what for you is the most valuable piece of jumping into a workshop with people?
Um, I mean, it's mainly seeing what you've got in trusted hands and expert hands. Um, because so much, at least for me, where I am is a lot of sort of writers getting together and writers reading and
Mm-hmm.
bad readers reading. And I am the first to admit I feel, I go to a few writers groups and whenever they have me read one of their roles, I just feel guilt. It's like
Mm.
I'm gonna kill this for you, but it's not the script. It's so a good workshop is invaluable because you know that you can just remove a sort of layer of doubt where it's
Mm.
like, I hate to think this is someone, but is it really that bad, or are they just like not good at, you know, conveying
Yeah.
something?
No, yeah, that's so
Uh,
you'd be putting it into into hands that you trust
mhm.
will do the justice to the words, so that you can focus on the
Yeah.
words themselves and what they are relaying to an audience. That's all. Yeah, that's
So that's the first thing is that's and it requires a lot of effort from a lot of people which I appreciate very much, um, to make that happen. So that alone is really invaluable, because rewriting's hard.
mm, you're not wrong. um, no, great.
And
Um,
I always talk about finding the gold, because it's not really true that even if everyone's really good, it's still hard to find exactly what's wrong with something.
mhm.
But every so often, like something just falls, you find the gold. It's like the writing's working, everyone just sort of gets it, and you're like, that's kind of a good block of my story.
Mhm. Oh yeah.
That uh, so that's always great to know that you have, because it's hard for me to know. Like, I've got the whole play in my head, and I have my ideas of what's going to carry over, what doesn't need changed.
Mhm.
But I know I'll have that confirmed when I see
Mhm.
it, because
Yeah,
it'll just be the thing that just really comes across really well.
good.
This is all kind of first pass stuff, but it's what I'm excited to.
Well, it's also, it might be as you say, first pass stuff, but also getting it to the chance to hear it, see it, feel it, take a take the time you need or want to tweak it to, to really make sure that it's, yes, it's first pass, but it's also almost at the same time final pass stuff. Because like you said, you know it when you hear it. Like, okay, yeah, that's it. That's right. Excellent. So speaking of, this play, we're heading into this workshop beginning next week. Do you have anything planned for after the workshop with this piece, or do you have, are you moving it to another workshop or a set of readings or anything, or is this kind of like we're going to wait and see what happens when it happens? I know that you've got other things happening, so.
Yeah, I don't have anything specific. I've got inquiries into a few of the Irish sort of new play development programs. I have right after this, I have my Trump play is going to a few fringe festivals, and I'm going to self-produce for the first time. So that's kind of what I'm jumping right into. And this one, I do feel sort of a bigger weight on me to get it right, especially since it's got this new relevance. And I've always agonized about the ending a bit. Like, it raises a question that I'm not sure I have the answer I want to yet, or if there should be an answer. The answer being about the main character. What I do kind of like these passive characters that are just frustrate you by just failing to really, and this goes all the way up to the end of the last scene.
Yeah,
you have a character that's passive, and so I'm still sort of agonizing over: is that the message? Is that it? Am I not finding this, like, to have him like pulled up a sword and roar? Like, I'm mad enough. I'm not sure what that.
I mean, it does at least reminiscent of the Hamlet-esque character of I can't. I don't even know if it's not that I can't make a decision. It's just I don't know which decision to make, so I won't make a decision until I know.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I just want everyone dying at the end in the bloodbath, because I'm not sure that.
Well, I mean, look, it is a direction to take it. So cool. Well, excellent. Typically with interviews that we do, I try to, end on a lighter note. So we have a couple of this or that questions, kind of rapid fire for you. Maybe you have a rational reason behind it, and maybe you don't. Who knows? So I'll start off with robots or dinosaurs.
Okay, that's easy, because even though I was a scientist, dinosaurs, because nature is still far more interesting than what we produce.
There you go. Trains or planes?
European, so it's got to be trains.
I'm there with you, man.
Not trains here. Some of them are a bit. There aren't any. That's the problem.
I was able to travel by train in Europe for a bit, and you're right. It is not the same thing. Not the same thing here. Salsa or guacamole?
Salsa. Well, a little bit of guacamole. Can't do too much. Yeah.
And then final question: time machine or magic wand?
I would have to go with time machine. I'm fascinated.
Okay. Yeah. Cool. Excellent. Well, again, Eoin, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us. As a reminder, the Brehon will begin its workshop process next week. We will have reading presentations on Friday the 21st and Saturday the 22nd of April. Looking forward to it. And again, thank you.
Thank you very much.